Welcome to the Senate Committee. Mr. Patrick, Mr. Graves, please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Bentley Graves. I'm the Director of Healthcare and Transportation Policy for the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. You've heard a lot of testimony today to illustrate the severity of this issue. This is a growing concern for employers across the state, not just because of the impact that it has on their communities, on their workforces, and on their workplace, but because of the underlying workforce issue. Our members across the state tell us constantly that they cannot find the workers they need. We need people to be productively engaged in the workforce, and this is keeping many people from doing that. So we appreciate the work that Senator Rosen, Senator Eaton has done to highlight this issue, to bring this issue to the attention of the legislature, and to bring this solution forward. We certainly appreciate the thoughtful approach that this bill puts forward in distributing funds in places that need investment, both in social services and in treatment and support. We very much support the policy provisions in Article 3, including, in particular, the piece around the prescription monitoring program. We think that's a very important piece that Minnesota can and should do quickly to help address this issue. We do have concerns with the stewardship fee funding mechanism, and we've discussed those concerns with Senator Rosen. But as she mentioned at the beginning here, this bill is a work in progress, and she's been very gracious to us in having that conversation with us. And we thank her for that dialogue, and certainly want to continue to engage in the conversation about how to advance this issue this session to find solutions. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions, but thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Mr. Patrick.
Madam Chair, members, Bobby Patrick, I'm the Director of Government Relations for Medical Alley Association. We appreciate the work Senator Rosen and others have done on this bill and the ongoing dialogue that we have been able to have with them on this. It's with great humility that we're here today, hearing all these stories, but we have a couple concerns with the bill as it is right now. First, we have concerns relating to the prescription limits in the bill, as it could impact products that are designed to reduce the number of opioid pills prescribed to patients after surgery. We want to work to ensure that alternative pain management techniques are not unnecessarily restricted because of these limits, and we want to thank Senator Rosen for agreeing to work with us on this provision. We also have concerns with the reporting provision in this bill, primarily whether the existing systems and inputs can be connected to generate the data. With the amendment today, this has impacted this section, so we're going to need to review that a little bit more before we can comment further on the impact that has had. Yeah. So, and we are also concerned about the tax fee increase in this bill as well, and its impact on innovation and costs. But as Bentley said, Mr. Graves said, we appreciate Senator Rosen's commitment to ongoing dialogue on that as well. So in closing, Medical Alley Association recognizes that this is a real problem requiring a real solution, and we look forward to continuing to work with Senator Rosen, Senator Eaton, and the rest of the members on that. Happy to take any questions.
And Senator Abler.
Well, thanks, and I appreciate you both coming. And Mr. Patrick, welcome to this side of the world. You never know what you're going to turn into in this world. But for both the testifiers, and I don't know if Farmer's going to come testify, but it seems to me, given, and I appreciate what the business people bring and the great inventions of Minnesotans, that here we are where there was an invention made some time ago that the inventors are still making tremendous tons of money, and everybody else is paying the price. We hear the counties are $122 million or something in Hennepin County, et cetera, for some of these costs. And so could either of you opine about how you would resolve this short of what we're trying to do here? And this is actually a small effort, but maybe you could offer another suggestion, Mr. Graves or Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Graves.
I won't speak for Mr. Patrick, but I will tell you from our perspective, I think that's a fair question to ask. There are legal processes, litigation going on as we speak, both in Minnesota and across the country to try and answer that question. I believe will answer that question with some definition about, what level of liability, if any, manufacturers, distributors, dispensers, prescribers have in this matter. And I think, that's a process that is designed to answer that question, and I believe will.
Senator Abler?
I want to hear Mr. Patrick answer that question, too, just because I want to hear what he thinks, please,
Yeah,
if you mind. You don't have to.
No, yeah, I agree with what Mr. Graves said. With the ongoing litigation, will resolve some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Senator Hayden?
Well, thanks, Madam Chair. And I was kind of thinking along the same lines as Senator Abler to the both of you. So I just want to make sure I heard what you said was that you oppose the bill, you really don't have any, though you know this is a crisis, you don't really have any ideas what you should do, so we should just wait on the ongoing lawsuits to see if that will help solve the issues. Is that, because I want to make sure I get this right, is that what the Chamber of Medical Alley groups are telling us?
Madam Chair and Senator Hayden, again, I can let Mr. Patrick answer for Medical Alley. From the Chamber's perspective, we do believe that is a process that can and will and should answer the question of liability. As far as what to do in the meantime, we think that the state can and should, and frankly has, as we heard before, leverage the federal dollars that are coming to the state. There are more federal dollars coming. We do think that there is an opportunity, given the surplus, to use some surplus dollars to get this program started while we await the decision there. And we think still, too, that there may be other opportunities. There are other states that have leveraged new kind of flexibility within Medicaid to find new tools for this as well. But as far as the question of liability goes, we do think that that's a question that's best answered by those processes that are playing out.
Senator Lurie.
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Patrick.
I apologize. Senator Hayden?
So I just wanted to follow up and see if Mr. Patrick had anything else to add.
Yeah, and I would generally agree with that. I would just add that, the federal government is working on, in their budget, money that has been allocated towards handling the opioid epidemic as well. So I think it's worthwhile to see what's going to come from that as we proceed in this process. And Medical Alley is committed to continue working with the author on funding source or revenue, or, to fund this bill.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank both of you. I think what I heard is that we should wait on the federal government dollars. We should wait to see what the courts say. We should wait and see, or we should explore taking Medicaid dollars from other folks and see if we could put it there. But what I hear a lot of is we don't like Senator Rosen and eat this bill, and we should wait. And in the meantime, our testifiers are coming up and telling us each and every day people are dying. Each and every day kids are being taken out of their house. Each and every day the cost to deal with this, much less even the morbid sense of we have to hire more medical examiners to make sure that we can take care of all of the bodies that come through. But your professional organizations are telling us we should wait.
And next, I have Senator Eaton, Senator Lurie, and Senator Klein. So Senator Eaton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to address the fact that I think the taxpayers have paid enough. Federal dollars are tax dollars. They come from each and every one of us, and I think we've all paid enough, if not in the lives of our children, but in money. The opioid manufacturers have not had any, have not put a dime into this. They've, yes, they pay the Medicaid federal rebate tax, and I think it's came to, what, $1.7 last year, million into the state of Minnesota. Well, I'm sorry, that's not enough. That doesn't cover what's going on. It doesn't even cover Hennepin County. I don't think the taxpayers should be on the hook for any more of this. I think it's time that the manufacturers of this drug, this poison that's killing people, need to step up. And I agree, there's a good purpose for it when people are in acute pain and people are terminally ill, but it's being used too freely for chronic pain. And I have offered before to Medical Alley to help them get their pain management devices, et cetera, up front, that to help them get them through, because I know insurance companies are resistive to put that money up front, because the pill is cheaper and it's easier to write a prescription than develop a plan of care for pain. But, and I appreciate you not being so vehemently opposed to our bill this year. So, with that all.
Thank you. Senator Eaton, testifiers to Senator Eaton's comments. Thank you. Then Senator Laurie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming up and offering your testimony. And, you know, I just wanted to think a little bit and talk a little bit about the fact that yeah, there are some other options that are possible out there that we could wait to do. But I mean, the feds, you know, we don't know what's going to be coming from the feds, and they're a separate branch of government. The law, you know, the courts are a separate branch of government, and they deal with legal liability, you know, and if they find legal liability, that's fine, and we should be able to leverage that and use it in an effort to try to stem this crisis. But there's more than legal liability here. You sit and listen to these stories. I mean, we hear these stories day in and day out, and we, again, Senator Hayden, you know, hit some of the highlights from the Hennepin County testimony. I'll include in it, you know, 40% of the prison population at a point in time was 800 inmates. In addition to the points that Senator Hayden brought back, are there for the primary reason of incarceration was opioids. That sounded to me like it didn't even include where it was a secondary reason. I mean, we are all struggling under this. And it takes every branch of government working together, every tool in our toolbox. And then, you know, to the point of legal liability, I'd actually be curious, I don't even know, have either of your organizations weighed in, or do you have opinions as to whether there actually even is legal liability on the part of pharmaceuticals? And have you filed any briefs, or do you have any materials on whether or not there's even legal liability on the part of the pharmaceutical companies that have introduced these drugs into our fabric of society. And so I'd like an answer to that. And then, you know, to the point, if we're not, you know, if we're going to wait for federal money, if we're going to wait for money from the courts. I also heard mention of, you know, other sources of money within the state, and I'm here to tell you, you know, and I've heard this talked about around the Capitol. There isn't going to be general fund money to continue to support the work that we need to do here in the state of Minnesota. We do need to work hard on finding a new stream of dedicated money that comes from the source of this epidemic that we're facing, that the legislature won't be tempted to raid, that will keep it dedicated to this purpose that isn't going away anytime soon. And so, you know, any suggestion that we have some alternative in the general fund is, quite frankly, it's pure folly. It's not going to happen. It's going to be in competition with elderly, disabled, you know, kids. We need to address this, and it takes every single tool in our toolbox. It has risen to that level. And so I guess most of that was a comment. The question is, do you have opinions? Have you weighed in with amicus briefs or anything like that? Do you have opinions as industry as to whether or not there is legal liability on the part of pharmaceuticals?
Mr. Graves or Mr. Patrick?
Madam Chair, Senator Laurie, to my knowledge, we have not.
Neither has Medical Alley Association, to my knowledge.
Thank you. Anything further? Senator Laurie.
So, I mean, I guess what I hear then is we should wait for the courts to see if there's legal liability, but I'm not sure there is. And we should just let that be. Wait for this question that you have no opinion on. I think that's, quite frankly, a pretty untenable position to take.
And Senator Laurie, did you want to an answer. Thank you, Senator Laurie. Senator Klein.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I have a question for the representative from the Medical Alley. So when I look on the Medical Alley website, your member organizations are, in the hundreds, I think. Very impressive. But they include traditional allies of the people here, including the University of Minnesota, the Bakken Museum, and so forth, as well as several pharmaceutical manufacturers. Can you specify for me, when you present an opinion before this body, are you representing the voices of all your member organizations, or is it specifically the pharmaceutical manufacturers who are addressing us?
Mr. Patrick.
Senator Klein, thank you for the question, Madam Chair. I'm here representing the collective voice of the Medical Alley Association.
Senator Klein.
Perhaps then I could address a question to Senator Rosen. Were the pharmaceutical manufacturers in any way interested in addressing the people of Minnesota in this forum or answering the questions that we have about how this epidemic has progressed?
Senator Rosen.
Madam Chair, Senator Klein, no, I have not heard from them.
Senator Klein.
Are there representatives from the pharmaceutical industry here in the chamber? Okay, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I'll progress with my next question.
Senator Klein.
Sir, since you are the best representative we have of the pharmaceutical industry here, and I accept the fact that you are perhaps an arm's length representative, we had the medical professional organization come down here, and with a great deal of contrition and humility, emotions that don't come easily to doctors, let me tell you, they explained what they have already done of their own initiative to address this crisis. And there's been more than what they described. They began a program at Hennepin County Medical Center to do telemedicine instruction around the state on how to deal with the opioid crisis. They've instructed their doctors in best practices. They've turned around a culture of opioid overuse. Can you describe for us some things that the pharmaceutical industry has done of their own initiative leading to this point to address this crisis?
Mr. Patrick.
Madam Chair, Senator Klein, I cannot speak for the pharmaceutical trade association, the pharmaceutical companies. I'm here on behalf of the Medical Alley Association, and we raised our concerns.
Senator Klein. Thank you.
Madam
And
Chair.
Senator Rosen.
I'd just like to clarify my answer. I have talked to the representatives of the pharmaceutical companies, but not to the people that can truly make a decision and make an impact. And that I'm hoping they will come and they will sit around the table, because you have to have all the stakeholders at the table. As we all know around in this room, nothing moves forward unless everybody's at the table. And there clearly is a missing component to this discussion. So yes, some of the representatives have been in my office, and I appreciate these fine gentlemen talking to me and some other folks behind here, but not the people that can make the decisions.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Senator Abler.
Well, I guess us on the other ends of the table here are having telepathic moments, Senator Klein. Well, actually, I know there's at least some of the lobbyists are in the room for the pharma, and I'm just astounded that they are not testifying. And I don't know, should I summon somebody down here? Or doesn't somebody want to, is there somebody in the room who could testify on behalf of pharma their position on this bill? Madam Chair.
Senator Abler, I do not see anyone coming.
Well, I see one person kind of crouching down in his seat wishing he'd been on an MLT trip.
Senator Abler, I don't see anyone coming forward.
Well, Madam Chair, then I'll just leave it at this. I'm shocked.
Have them do that to you.
This is a big deal. Usually in this kind of bill, someone comes in from out of town in a very nice suit, and maybe a couple, and they show up. And they're serious, and they talk, and they try to, undo the bill or meet some people and change it around. And the two testifiers here are adequately serving their interests, and I am not going to ask any more of them. They have come on behalf of their organizations speaking about the plurality of their members. This is the hearing when pharma should be here. They should be on the list. There should be a statement. There should be a video. There should be something from them. And that is totally disrespectful to the author, to the topic, to the hundreds of people who have died, to the genuine effort made by this body in a bipartisan way to do something. And for them not to be here, even to offer a statement or send an emissary speaking on their behalf, I think is at the least disrespectful, and I think it's unethical. And I will raise again my point, waiting for them to come talk to me. Is it moral for a company, once they discover they have a product that they marketed wrongly as being non-addictive and really effective, to discover it's neither, and reap hundreds of millions of dollars and continue that and not offer to show their face? Madam Chair, I'm just appalled. Thank you.
Senator, please refrain. I'm sorry, we do not do demonstrations in the Senate, but we understand your concern and we welcome your presence. Senator Rosen, would you like to make any comments to Senator Abler's comments?
No, Madam Chair, I cannot top that. He said he actually said it better than I could have. It is appalling, and I'm waiting.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. And any further comments for these testifiers? And to Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, not to the testifiers, but just that I have been strongly supportive of the bill, but not working on it. But Senator Rosen and Senator Eaton and Senator Abler and others, I think if the dollar amount started going up from 1 cent to 2 cents here, and then in full finance, if they didn't come again, it might get their attention at some point.